All right, so we're going to shift gears a little bit because we don't have all day, and there's at least one more story I want to get to, and that was one that was kind of interesting because I'm a veteran,
Hmm.
and that was involving recruiters in schools.
Yeah.
Federal law says they have to let them in; they can't keep them out under any cases, and you don't like that.
I hadn't really thought about it that deeply, to be quite honest. My only experience with it was I remember when I was graduating high school, I was going to college, and I had never had any interaction or any interest in joining the military. But for some reason, I started getting barraged with phone calls and text messages asking me to join the military right as I was graduating. And I was just like, why would they have my number? Why are they calling me? I thought it was bizarre.
Yeah,
And it went on for like 2 or 3 months, and then it finally went away. But I just remember thinking, this is so odd. Um, but I actually ended up, jumping into this hellfire of a debate. Kind of not really thinking that deeply about it. I just saw somebody else say something on Twitter about how they thought it was immoral for them to come into schools and mostly prey on poor kids, which is largely what many of them do. I'm very aware that many people who go to the military they go because they don't really have a lot of other options. And I thought, I agree with that. I don't think that you can ban them from private schools. Obviously, that's a private business decision. But I don't think that it's a good idea for military recruiters to just be in schools going after kids whose brains aren't fully developed without their parents present, without any advocate or anybody to push back on things they might be saying. I think if a kid's interested in joining the military, they can go to the website, they can go to the recruitment center, they can look into it. Their parents can help them do that. I don't like the idea of recruiters coming and kind of, pushing and pushing and pushing. And I do know enough about the military and just about government in general at this point to know that many people do feel they've been lied to by the recruiters in the past. I've spoken with
yeah,
several friends who are veterans that feel that way. So I merely quote tweeted it at first and just said, I actually agree with this, and all hell broke loose. So I thought, let's make some content out of this. Let's flush this out a bit more and clarify, because whenever things become contentious, I think it's always important to say more, right? Explain yourself more, communicate better and more in depth.
yeah.
So I laid out an article sort of hashing out those sentiments a little bit more in depth, backing it up with some research, backing it up with some stories and firsthand accounts from people who have had these experiences. And it kind of took off online, and it sparked a conversation for sure. I would say it's been about 50-50. There's been a ton of people, especially veterans, who have agreed with me, even some former military recruiters who've agreed with me, and a lot of people saying, I never thought about this before, but this prompted me to. But then there's also been the other side of people who frankly just seem very defensive, like, well, I went to the military and it's great for me. It's like, all right, that's not really the debate. Like,
Yeah.
I
Well, it's
didn't
like
say it couldn't be great for you, but I just said this tactic isn't great.
like I said, I'm a veteran. I'm unusual in that I think I may be the only person who ever put on a military uniform whose recruiter didn't lie to him. In fact, that's part of the reason I went in the Navy. It wasn't because I just really liked the uniforms.
Mm.
The old sailor. No, I had no interest. That was actually something working against it. Um, I when I decided I was going to enlist, I figured I needed to grow up. I was in college and I wasn't doing well, and I was like, I need to grow up. My dad was like, talk to all the branches, talk to everybody. And at the end of the day, the Navy's the only one that didn't try to BS me. That's why I enlisted there.
Hmm.
Um,
Interesting.
so so yeah, it's everybody I know. They were told all kinds of wild things. One guy, we talked about this last week. He signed up to be a hull technician, which means he would work on the hull of a ship. His recruiter told him there was a really good chance he'd be able to be stationed close to home. He was from Oklahoma. There are not a lot of hulls in Oklahoma. They're
Yeah,
just
not a
not.
lot of water, right?
No, not that kind of water.
Yeah.
And so we all encountered people that the recruiter lied to them. They they oversimplified some things, or I had a friend of mine going through in the Navy. You go through A school. That's your technical training. Well, one of the guys in my class had a bachelor's degree before he ever enlisted.
Hmm.
His recruiter told him, "Oh no, it's easier to get into an officer's program with a bachelor's degree if you're enlisted first." And he believed them because Well, why would they lie to him?
Right.
If he had gone to an officer's recruiter, they could have talked to him, because a lot of people don't realize that the recruiting center in your local shopping mall, in your local strip mall, is an enlisted recruiting center. There are officer specific recruiters for officers
Huh.
out there. And if you don't talk to those guys, you're not they're
You're not on that track.
and right. And recruiters, and this is one of the real problems I have, is they have a quota. They're
Right.
required to get in so many people. And if they don't, there are penalties, as I understand it. I was never on
Mm.
recruiting duty, so this is all second, third hand
Yeah. Yeah.
information. But there's penalties for not doing your task, not doing your job, which can hurt you come promotion time, which can hurt you with other assignments, all these other things. And so, yeah, there's a perverse incentive for these guys to tell people anything it takes
Hmm.
to get them to sign that dotted line. And like you said, at 18, 19, the brain isn't fully developed. This is something that the left likes to use to justify banning all gun sales to anyone over under the age of 21, which is funny because it doesn't stop. The brain doesn't fully develop until 25.
Right.
But
Kind of arbitrary.
but right, it's just they like that arbitrary number better. Is what that boils down to. And it's important to note, you're not saying 18-year-olds shouldn't enlist. They should be
No.
barred from enlisting. You haven't
I
said anything
think
like,
we need to recognize that, and I think there are multiple areas this pertains to in society. I think there is a warranted conversation around what the age of adulthood is, and I think it should be
yeah,
better set and set scientifically, and then I think it should be uniform across the board. I really don't like this
agreed.
hodgepodge of stuff. What I will say is that I think 21 is better than 18. I think 25 is better than 21. Your prefrontal cortex, which is the region of the brain that controls flight or fight, it's your risk assessment region. It is not fully developed until you're age 25. So every year you're getting closer, it's getting better and better, but you're going to make very different choices after age 25. You're probably going to do less risky things, make better calculations. That's one reason you see crime precipitously fall after the age of 25,
Right.
because people's brains aren't mushy anymore. They're making better decisions. The thing that when it comes to the military, I think the problem is that you are locked in for such an extensive period of time. When you do sign, 4 years is an eternity in your, teens and early 20s.
There
And
there
you
are
risk life
2-year
and death.
enlistments, but they don't push those.
Interesting. Yeah, I had no idea. But if you make a bad choice on this, it could be life or death. I've seen people say that they were told they'd never deploy, and then they were deployed. Like you really just, I think, it's playing with fire. And I've had some pushback. They're like, well, don't you think then that college recruiters shouldn't be allowed to be in public schools because they also misconstrue things? And I've said for a while, I've advocated and will continue to advocate for better financial literacy classes in high schools. I think
Oh yeah.
when it comes to that, it's still your choice if you want to go to school. I think there are better other options. I think there's better ways to do college that are cheaper. I think it's really smart to take a gap year and work and figure out what you actually want to do, and if you even need a degree to do it. So I think there's definitely some pushback I have on those people, and I think there needs to be better education and awareness. But at the end of the day, we're not talking life or death when it comes to taking on some student debt, right? The average student debt payment is $250 a month. You'll make it. If you do the wrong thing and you take on too much debt, the average person, you're still going to figure it out and be okay. So I don't think this is on par with that. And again, I think with recruiters, we do know that they lie. They do have quotas. By the way, those quotas are drastically down over the past couple of years. They cannot even come close to the numbers that they are trying to enlist. And I think
Which
that
creates more incentive to lie.
exactly. They're desperate. They're spending a lot of money. They're doing a lot of spin and marketing. And I think there's real reasons enlistment is declining. I know some people are like, it's America's getting soft. I don't think it's that. I think it's that Americans are waking up to the fact that much of our foreign policy, many of the wars we've been involved in, have had nothing to do with national security, have actually made us less safe at many times. And they're not willing to keep signing up to fight for blood money for people in the military industrial complex, and I think that's your issue. If we really did have a matter of national security, I think many people would enlist. If civil liberties were actually on the chopping block, I'd enlist, right? I'll go fight for the Second Amendment, the First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment. It's not what we've been fighting about. So I don't see the decline in numbers as a problem. That's the other thing people said. Well, if you don't let them recruit, we're going to keep going down. I'm like, good. If you can't bankrupt them through Congress, if Congress doesn't have the spine to pull their budget back and make them stop these endless wars, quit giving them the supply, quit giving them the manpower to do it, right? I think there's multiple ways to break the foreign policy that we've had for the past couple of years. And again, veterans have been so major in that conversation. The number, especially those who were in the war on terror, the number of people I've talked to who fought in the war on terror, who were duped, who got sent over there and realized very quickly that they were not there for what they thought they were there for, who saw the humanity in the people they were having to fight, who felt they had to participate in war crimes. These people have been speaking out for some time, and I think the younger generations are listening. We now have things like TikTok and other social media platforms where people are able to learn and push back on some of the lies that they're hearing from recruiters. So I think as a whole that's indicative of a bigger problem within the military. But I think certainly when it comes to public schools, there's no reason for them to be in there. If they want to talk to kids, I think the kids should have to express interest. The parent should have to be present. There needs to be some safeguards to make sure that, and they should not be legally allowed to lie to them. If you do that, that should
No.
be, you should face charges for it.
And that's something Congress can do something about and should, because I mean, we do not allow companies to lie in their marketing materials to us. Okay, they're going to be a little flamboyant. We know that. We know not to take the ads at face values, but you cannot say this cures headaches when what it does is cause cancer.
Right.
You know, you can't openly lie in your marketing, and yet these people who are paid for by the American taxpayer are kind of not just allowed to; they're almost required to, based on circumstances. And I think part of the reason why recruiting's down is also you don't spend 20 years and thousands of American lives to replace the Taliban with the Taliban, and people not go, do I really want a piece of that?
Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, you know, talking about awareness too, it's not just that they're lied to about what enlistment might look like. I think they're also lied to or just not told about the reality for many veterans afterwards, the terrible health care that they receive, and in the best case of circumstances, the PTSD they have to carry around and live with, the number of vets that are homeless, the number of vets that are on the verge of poverty, right? I think more and more people are becoming aware of just how badly the government even treats our veterans too. And that also is going to hurt it.
It doesn't even take having been in combat. I got out pre 9/11. So, you know, I was in during like Kosovo and all that, and Somalia and stuff like that, but I was never deployed to any of those places. I joined the Navy to see the world. I saw Chicago and Virginia. But when I got out, it took me years to get my life together, because the military life is not like the real world, and they do nothing really to transition you. They do more now, but back then it was like, oh, today's your last day. Here's your DD-214. Go away. And you're suddenly you're essentially homeless. You know, if you've got the leave time, you can take terminal leave, so you've got the benefits for, you know, a few more weeks or a few months or whatever. But I mean, you know, in a lot of ways, you're just thrown to the wolves, and your life is so much different. The adjustment is hard. It was real difficult for me.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, coming out of college was hard in a similar way, like where I didn't really feel prepared to just function. I didn't really even know how much money I needed to live. I came out with this business degree, and I was like, now what? I mean, how do you get a job? How much money do you need? Like, I don't know.
I didn't get paid, a lot of money as an E4, but I lived in the barracks, ate in the galley. What did I need?
Yeah.
You know, and then suddenly I've got to, oh crap, I got to buy groceries. What's a okay, I wasn't that bad. I wasn't, what's a grocery store? But, it was such, I had to move back home. So suddenly I'm 22 and living with my mom because I literally have nowhere else to go.
Right. Yeah. You don't have a
transition. I'm completely ill-equipped.
And I know that the unemployment numbers have been improving for veterans in recent years, but they historically have not been great, right? The ability to actually place veterans in free market private roles, I think was a problem for some time, and it's getting a little bit better just due to awareness more than anything, it seems, from the business community. But yeah, I think, I think if there is an actual matter of national security, I'd be beating a very different drum. I don't think that that's been the case in my lifetime. I don't foresee it being the case really anytime soon unless we keep provoking Russia. But aside from that, I understand why people don't want to sign up and risk their lives, risk their bodies in this capacity. And I think that when it comes to school kids, they deserve a little bit better than that. It's under George W. Bush's No Child Left Behind legislation that actually has a component that says military recruiters are allowed in schools and they must be given information to the students, which, like, surprise, surprise, who implemented that? And I think that
I'm
needs to
just
be
shocked to
repealed.
find out. I'm just shocked to find yet another problem with No Child Left Behind.
Yeah, I know. George Bush, man. Ugh,
Yeah.
what a mess. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm with you. I think Congress could do something about that. I think we need to fix the system of recruiting, and for the immediate future, I think they should be banned from public schools. And I don't personally find that to be all that controversial of a take, but I guess we'll see what your listeners think.
Yeah, we'll find out. Well, Hannah, thank you so much for joining me this, first episode. So thank you for dealing with the growing pains, such as
Not
they
at all.
are.
You seem like an old
Uh,
pro.
oh well, thank you. I'm at least old, so I
You
got
got
that going for me. I'm at least halfway there. So again, thank you so much for joining me. Tell people where all they can find you.
Yeah. So if you want to check out my writing and Tom's writing, you can go to our website, which is base-politics.com. Everything else is under my name. So you can find me, Hannah Cox, on Facebook, Hannah D. Cox on Twitter, on TikTok, on Instagram. I'm all over the place. So would love to connect with folks there.
Awesome. Well, Hannah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, folks. Thank you so much. Hit like and subscribe and all that other stuff. And we will see you later.